Yeah. You ready?
I can.
Yeah. Yeah. Put the monitor on the live stream. So that you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Sorry. And we'll be starting in 3, 2.
You know, I bet I can guess what's on your mind.
Bet you can't. Bet you can't. Bet you can't. Bet you can't.
You know, I bet I can guess what's on your mind.
Bet you can't.
Guys, welcome back to another episode of House Rules Podcast. We are a little late starting. Apologies, some things ran late, but we're here. We're doing it. I am your host, Alex Getlin.
I'm your other host, Rachel LaForce.
We do this every Monday live, usually at 5:30, but sometimes closer to 6. You guys know the deal. Things happen. Either way, we are here. We are live streaming. It is awesome. And we are so excited to bring another house guest back to our show. This person, I can honestly say, one of my oldest friends, someone I have known basically my entire life since high school and on. Guido Barak, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Happy to be here today.
So listen, man, so you do a lot of things, but specifically you are, I guess I would say you're like a nature photog connoisseur.
Yeah, I try and get to remote areas and just take photos of beautiful places outdoors.
Yeah, so your Instagram and your website, Free the Dust. We're going to watch some of your stuff in a second here.
Cool.
But tell us, well, first of all, where does Free the Dust come from?
That's actually my origin story, and I have to save that until I get to 100,000 followers. But let's just say it has to do with...
Oh, you're teasing us. Okay.
I have to, That's how
Yeah.
you build a following. And
Wait, is that really working for you? That feels like some sort of like negging technique of like wanting to get somebody to like call you back. And it's like, nah, girl, I'm not going to give you the origin story yet.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, that's what's going to happen.
All
I'm getting
right.
there. It's
Well,
growing.
let's. I want to show everybody some of your work. Because honestly, I'm not just saying this because you're one of my dear friends. Your stuff is incredible.
Thanks.
So we have a video here because you do photos and drone video.
Yeah. I
Of
like the
nature.
drone.
Yeah. So our trusty engineer Joey is going to get that queued up for us. So let's take a look at this video right here.
Sorry.
Oh, it froze. Hold on.
I mean, honestly, that could be the whole video and I would be impressed.
Yeah.
Where is that? Do you remember?
That shot is in southern Utah. I think near Factory Butte.
I was going to say, honestly, you could tell me anywhere and I go, fascinating. You know?
That's the galaxy that we're in. So.
Cool.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you look at the bottom right, he's got all the places listed there too.
Whoa.
Yeah. That's a crazy area. Stannis Record right there.
It's a friend of ours from high school. It's pretty sick, right?
Whoa. Whoa.
Yeah, that takes some explanation. That place doesn't make sense.
So many thoughts.
We'll get to it.
Did Alex pick out this music for you?
No,
But
just
I
have
would.
great taste.
Dude, I like this song.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I said that.
Very cool, right?
That is very cool.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
So first of all, you guys who are just listening to the audio version, because I know there's a lot of you. Obviously, I can't just describe the photos to you; it wouldn't do justice. So go on Instagram to @FreeTheDust. Follow. Go on the website freethedust.com. That's
Right.
your website.
Right.
And let's get to that 100,000 followers. I want to know the origin story.
I'm excited to tell it.
But also, I will say this. I'm going to plug this because it's awesome. If you guys see any photos that Guido has shot and you're like, man, that would be so cool to get a print. He does prints, actually. This is one he gifted to Rachel and I for our home. Look how amazing that is. Can you guys see this here? Look at that. It's so incredible. So where is this, Guido?
That's in Florence. I was like walking down the street, cut through like one alley to another street, and that was just the atrium looking straight up.
Yeah, so you can order prints online on your website, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah. Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like the first thought I had in watching that video was I was like, damn, I really miss traveling. Like a real like deep sense of like sadness of like, wow. And then I was like, there are too many people in Los Angeles. And then immediately followed by like, why do I still live here? And then the other thing like that's so crazy to me is really wrapping my head around just how massive even like the US is. Like, is to see all of that footage and it's like, I mean, obviously like Utah isn't very like, it's not super populated, right, in comparison to some other places. But even like, I mean, Colorado is a fairly populated state and there's still just like so much in like Montana, Wyoming, like all of that. Like, it's just, it's overwhelming how much. I think I was saying this last night. We had a little like offline convo. And I feel like when I was talking about that of like, everything we need, we already have. Like, I feel like the earth was designed to take care of us, to provide for us. And yet, like, that's my only, issue with like living in LA is it's like, well, here we are all living on top of each other and everyone's like miserable and feels like cooped up. I mean, COVID or no COVID, right?
I get what you're saying.
And then there's like all this just vast space.
Humans aren't meant to be this compacted, like crammed into small spaces together. I really don't think it's natural for our evolution. One thing you and I have talked about at length. So you spend a lot of time out in the wilderness by yourself.
Right, and that's part of like the idea behind why I got started in photography and nature and stuff is a lot of what you're saying. I truly believe that it doesn't matter where you live and where you're from. You can find something in your vicinity that looks like the places I take photos of. And yeah, I might have a nice camera and I have a drone so I can capture it better. But like, before I came to visit you guys, I was just in Carrizo Plain National Monument. And it's just this like empty valley that's completely gorgeous. And it's 2 hours away from here. So, I don't buy it when someone's like, oh, you just got to be some rich dude that flies around the world, You can find it anywhere.
That is true.
Yeah.
I think that's right. That's accurate for like 80+% of people.
Yeah.
There are some people who are just like so poor they can't leave their block. But I get what you're saying. People tend to make excuses or they don't venture out.
Yeah.
And they think I don't think people really value the importance of like unplugging from the grid once in a while.
That's so important.
We're going camping in October. Do a little 2-day Joshua Tree vacation before we get married. And I want to like lock but I want to lock our phones in the car. Just text my parents, my brother, like, hey, I'm off the grid. I'll check this once a day for emergencies. And I just want to like be in nature. I mean, it really, honestly, the thing I'm learning more and more the older I get is how much stimulation without periods of like rest is so unhealthy for you. It's really like, I think we're seeing it now, but even more in decades to come, how disruptive this has been to our nervous system and our emotional stability and all that kind of stuff.
Right. I mean,
Well, yeah, I mean, it's more of like nature has a natural rhythm, right? We have 4 seasons, there are cycles, things come to an end. It's like in the idea of like farming and agriculture, like you put down seeds and then over time, like things, it's like, again, the world was designed of some grand design in order to supply us with what we need. And so, yeah, I mean, yeah, there's something of like when people are like, I'm going off the grid and that's great, whatever works for you. But it's also as simple as like, if I'm in the vicinity of the ocean, like for work or something, do I have 20 minutes to stop and like take my, my shoes off and stand with my feet in the sand and let the water hit my toes and just breathe for a second? Like, it doesn't have to be like, it is a thing that we can access to a certain extent all of the time. If we're choosing to be present and dial into it. I mean, being able to stand outside and just take a full breath even is like spectacular.
I mean, it kind of has the same effect as a power nap in a way. It gives your body a moment to like reset and recharge. I mean,
So I can't nap, right? I just can't do it. I've been trying for like 20 years.
you're too
I
anxious.
can't nap.
Can't nap.
I don't.
I failed
Yeah.
it.
Real quick,
Yeah.
my dad, Bob Gatlin, shout out, loyal viewer. Thanks, Dad. He says, "Hi, Guido. Awesome photos. We recognize some of the shots. Bryce Canyon in Yosemite Valley with Half Dome. I don't know what Half Dome means. That must be part of the.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
like a.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's say, what would be your ultimate? Because I know you're not new to this, but it hasn't been like your whole career. So you've been doing this 5 years or so, or
Yeah, 3, 4. Yeah.
cool. So what would be like your dream? Like, what's Guido's ultimate aspirations with Free the Dust? I want to use this show to help my friends who are talented to get closer to their goals. Last week last week was just us, but 2 weeks ago, we had our friend Leah Knauer, who has a manifestation course. Before that, we had our buddy Armando, who's got a funny podcast about everything cults. So you're the photo guy, specifically nature, because I know you said you don't really like shooting people.
No, I'll shoot. I mean, I'll do like portraits if people ask and stuff like that. But I just, I like being out in nature. I think photography for me has been a way for me to get out there. It's like a tool for me to get out there. I say, oh yeah, well, I can't just say I'm going out to nature. It's like, I'm going out because I have to take photos. You have to have an excuse to go do something.
Right.
So, and it's a way for me to remember those places. I don't know, catalog them, be out there in them.
You know what's funny is it's like I get that logic that it's you want to be in nature, and now you feel like you're not only enjoying it, but you're being productive and you're creating something.
Yeah.
So I do photos on the side. I don't have the skill set you do. I just do it more as like a little side thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I've shot a lot of shows, like my buddies who do stand up when we had live events still.
Right.
And I would go and take pictures. And I was doing this one show. This is at the warehouse where Michael does his show. And I was just taking pictures of stuff. And then there were like these different like people, mostly like young women, who were like, "Oh my God, a photographer, take my picture." And my buddy Randy was like, "Bro, I got to get a camera, dude. These chicks, they love the photo." And I was like, all right, like fine. Like for him, that was like, oh, I can like hit on girls and use the camera as a way to get in there. And I was
Hey,
like,
each to his own.
all right,
Each to
man,
his own.
whatever.
So talk to me. I feel like, what I'm interested in getting to know, because I think this is like really where like, conversation will hopefully come from, which is like, what was it about getting outside that you wanted to explore?
Okay, well, that's a bit of a story. I grew up in Logan, Utah. It's a small town. My whole childhood, we went on hikes. Before I could even walk, I was in my mom's like backpack and just got out. So it's something I've had with me like my entire life. When I was 18, I moved to Israel. Spent a long time in the military, and I kind of started to miss the West and Utah. I mean, I guess Utah and home and all that. And I came back and I like kind of rediscovered this, like you were mentioning before, these vast, vast landscapes and places where you can go out and just see kind of a slower pace of life. Everything slows down. Being in the military, it's like very intense, very high paced, lots of pressure emotionally, spiritually, all this stuff. And then you have this like, I was born in a place with a stark contrast, right? I was born in this place where you can drive for 15 minutes and you just can look for miles and not see a single sign of humanity. Now, for me, I think it's a callback to that like childhood thing and nostalgia, but I just can like kind of keep reliving it and I enjoy it and I love it. So I think that's what like got me into it,
Yeah.
So, get back out into it.
Well, that's interesting. Like talking about the difference between the pace of life, kind of what Alex was talking about of like, our nervous systems, and I think that most people don't even like. It's crazy to me if whenever I talk about like re-regulating your nervous system, people are like, "Oh, spiritual woo woo," and I'm like, "I'm sorry, you mean like your body and being aware of it?" Like,
Wait, can I interject for one moment?
sure.
I don't think it's that as a whole that people roll their eyes at. It's because there are a lot of kind of shysters on the internet that push that, and they're really trying to get your money for something that's BS. There's a lot of great ones too, but I think unfortunately there's been like we watched that documentary about people who were trying to use essential oils to heal people that were like dying of terminal illness, and it was like you guys are this is not science. You're just selling your bullshit.
Yeah.
So I think that's where that attitude comes from. They're misinformed because there is a lot of benefit to what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's that, but I think people also aren't really interested in slowing down, and I don't think people are interested in wanting to be aware of their body and how they feel and what they need. I'm talking about it on a whole. I'm not
Okay.
saying everyone.
Sure.
I mean, I'm just
No,
saying.
I know. I'm not challenging you.
I'm just saying I think when you ask people to reflect on themselves, a lot of people haven't done that
Yeah.
in a really long time.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
it's scary to really stop because then it becomes work. Because once you identify what it is that you actually need or what would genuinely make you feel better or have a better sense of ease in your own like body and mind, once you identify it, then you have to work towards it. And
Well,
like, why does anybody want to do that?
I think that, and I think we don't. It's not a skill that we teach people in like school or everyday life, like how to process complicated emotions. You know, people just feel stuff, and we don't do and I don't know how it would be that we teach people this, but you know, we love watching. We talk about this all the time. TV, our politics, reality TV, all that shit. It's a lot of toxic emotional interactions, for sure. And we are fascinated by it. So we eat it up, and it's like permeating back into like more and more of like everyday life, which is honestly why I look at like when you go out in the wilderness and I'm like, man, if you and I could just live out in the desert and just do work, like build a home studio, work from there, and just live kind of, I'll get some solar panels and some chickens and a garden. Like I'm good to go, dude. That would be amazing. Universe, please make this happen. That would be in my dream.
Well, you got to go
I mean,
do it, man.
yeah, I was like, I mean, I feel like that's a really doable goal.
I'm working on it. And one way you guys can help is please like, share, subscribe. Okay, I'm sorry. But I'm serious. If you could tell people about our podcast.
I think I really genuinely feel that people do want this information. I mean, I know I hear that from you a lot where you're like, no, people want, like, they want the junk. They want, like, I hear that, and I think there is that, but I also, I think a lot of people don't even know why they don't feel good.
Right.
And I mean, I think if you asked most people, they, you know, it would be like, oh, I don't know. I guess nobody's even like asked me that before.
But you've said, I've heard you say many times how, you know, you stopped drinking over 2 years ago. You stopped smoking cigarettes over 2 years ago. You started eating healthier. You did a lot of emotional work on yourself. You confronted tough, you know, things in your psyche that you were putting away. Like you've said, you're exhausted from no wonder people want to drink and smoke and ignore the things that they don't want to deal with.
Oh,
Because
yeah. I mean,
it's-
being marginally unhappy is way easier. And in
Right.
fact, a lot more fun. I mean, listen, that's
you
why
heard it here first, folks.
I was like, but that's what I said. It's like, dude, like, I get it, you know? Like, it makes sense to me. That's where I was saying, like, I had that stand-up bit, you know, RIP to stand-up, that's not, you know, in drive-in theaters, or back parking lots. Side ones too. Let's move on. But I had that bit where I was like, you know, talking about all this work I've been doing on myself, and I was like, and I am exhausted, you know, because it is so much work. Like what I just said of like, once you identify what it is that you need, and that like, I was only halfway through my day and was like in my head, this was today. And in my head was like, I'm really proud of myself. You know, I was up about 8:15. So I got to sleep in a little bit, but I was up early enough to like have a full morning. I did my meditation. I worked out for an hour, took a shower, got ready completely, like sat down at my desk, knocked out everything, wrote with a writing partner for 2 hours, like got to eat a homemade meal, circle back. Here we are, like what a great day, right?
Yeah.
And then immediately my next thought was, oh my God, I have to do it again tomorrow. Like I was like already,
But
you know what I mean?
But you know what the difference is that you're not working for someone else's dream. You know what I mean? You're not slaving away at some shit job for somebody else that you don't care about. You and I both, and you too, Guido. We're all working incredibly hard on art that we own, that we believe in. And like for all three of us, we make a little money. Like it's not quite where we want it to be yet.
Sure.
But what keeps me going a lot is that I know that like when this stuff, like with whether it's photos or drone videos or scripts or podcasts, whatever, like the difference of when it's like you're making virtually nothing to like the floodgates of income have opened up, it's very quick. Like once it starts, if you keep that momentum going, it's pretty consistent.
It's also a thing for me if it's like if you get into any art or following your passion because you think you're going to make a ton of money, like that's the worst reason to do it. Because, I mean, I don't know, and we were talking about this last night too, where I was saying, you know, sometimes I've probably unintentionally held myself back from making more money simply because my pursuit is not money.
Right.
Like now, I mean, listen, like everybody wants like a lot of money and to live comfortably and all of those things. But like
I don't want a lot of money.
But yeah, like I'm like I just mean that like
I think what you mean is everybody would enjoy it if it was given to them. It's not a matter of like that's your first priority. It's like let me ask you that. Hold on.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, right?
Okay.
If you could, because I get what you're saying. It's not art. Like both of us and most people I think have a price. It's like, listen, I enjoy money, but my values, whatever those might be, come first. Money comes second, unless you're just purely into money. What I'm saying though is like, if you have the same two scenarios and you work and live the exact same way, but one gives you, $50,000 a year and one gives you $500,000 a year, of course you'd want the 500,000, right?
Well, I think that's like, kind of short-sighted because the point isn't like I want the situation that gives me more money. The point is I want the situation that gives me, I don't know, more happiness and maybe more stability. And money is that's like money, for me at least, is the stepping stone to get to the things I really want. And if there's other ways to find it, then, I'll do that. If I don't have to, I don't know, spend as much money in my life and therefore don't have to earn as much, but I'm just as happy, then that's what's important.
I get that. What I simply mean, though, is having more financial resources gives you more freedom, right?
Generally speaking.
Generally, right.
Yeah.
So for what you do, right, you could just do the photo taking and travel, and then you could pay someone, hey, just manage my YouTube, manage my Instagram, take care of the business stuff for me with the prints. You could fly first class if you want. You can get a nicer car. Or no, I'm just saying there are things like I think one of my issues that I feel like is a big conversation now is this notion that like capitalism is evil. It's like no, capitalism itself isn't evil. Yeah, unchecked capitalism with the mega wealthy who don't give back, that is evil. Yeah. But people wanting to be rewarded for their work is not a bad thing.
Not at all. I mean that's makes perfect
I think
sense.
we're all in agreement with that. It's just
I feel like that was just a thing you really wanted to throw into the conversation.
Well, I did.
Maybe the second or third time we've heard that today, but
it's not. I want to talk more to Guido about what you're doing.
Okay.
So I want to know. Yeah, I mean, do you feel like when you are like for me, I feel like I'm a big proponent of like nature heals. Like I have a television show that's in development right now all about that, of like getting more people out into nature and kind of taking this idea of mapping like your internal struggle over like an external challenge, right? So taking women that are normally not in an outdoor setting and bringing them out there, right? Because again, to me, of this idea of like cycles and rhythms and all of these things are very intertwined, or even like internally, right? We have like our circadian rhythm and then like women with their 28-day cycle, more or less. Ain't no woman actually in 28 days, but there's no ladies in the room. So, hey,
you're
y'all feel me.
You're repping for all of them.
What pressure that is. Could you imagine if I was the one to speak for everyone? Ugh, terrifying.
But you know what? There are celebrities who I think feel like they do represent all of whatever identifiers they are, which is kind of annoying.
Well, it's also called narcissism, but
Anyway, back to what you were saying.
But I think that that's something that makes being in a wide open space feel just... I guess it's like I could put words on it, but where it just feels right. Like there's this sense of like centeredness that almost happens.
I will say I have memories from my teenage youth that I remember. I'm assuming my parents are still watching, so I'll give huge props to Bob and Arlene Getlin, my wonderful parents, who at a young age they did two things that really shaped me. One, they got me into Boy Scouts, which that was like my first taste of the outdoors, like at 8, 9, 10 up, camping on the East Coast and that area. But I remember what really was cool is there was a trip we did. I think I was 15. I think it was the summer between my freshman and sophomore year of high school. And we went to the Grand Canyon and Sedona, Utah. Or Sedona, Arizona, excuse me.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, Sedona, Arizona. And the Grand Canyon's incredible. What was really cool is you just kind of drive up. It's like you don't see it coming. You're just driving, and all of a sudden it's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
We're at the Grand Canyon, right?
Yeah.
But Sedona, I think, was more magical to me. The Grand Canyon is cool, but something about, part of it for sure. I've always been drawn to like the southwestern region of the country where all that desert highlands are and everything. But something about Sedona felt, I don't know, man. It was so different than everything I had experienced. Also growing up differently than you.
Well, shit, I got to go there. I've never been there.
You never been to Sedona?
No.
How is that possible?
I don't know.
What?
There's like...
You're the guy.
I'm the guy.
You're the outdoor guy.
I know. But there's still places I haven't been either.
Okay.
But,
where have you not been that you'd want to go?
Wait, can we go to Sedona with you?
Yeah.
You've been to Sedona, right?
Yeah, that was one of the places I thought about getting married. Sedona is like one of the like spiritual like play. It does. You've been in all of those places. Of like sometimes it's like, to me, it's that same feeling of like my favorite thing to do when I travel is to go sit in like giant cathedrals. Especially overseas. Here now it's like going, especially like in LA. It's like, this was what, 1940? Like, oh, history, But to go like when I, being in, like I was in Vienna and then another place in Prague and the Czech Republic and all these places, and just walking into either like, end of the sidewalk chapels.
Yeah.
And you walk in and there's just this like, almost like something different about the air.
Yeah.
And like to sit there and there's just something that's very humbling, because I feel like especially in Los Angeles where there's this feeling of like, you're important, everybody's got to know about you. What's your POV? Sell me your brand. And then you go there and you're like, oh yeah, I literally don't matter, in the best way possible.
Oh, it's healthy. It's like a check. You need that.
I don't think you know this. Guido used to live in Italy.
Yeah. Lived there for a year.
Oh really? Where?
In southern Tuscany. I know.
Ah!
Difficult life. Yeah.
Oh wow.
You were what, 12?
When I was like from 11 to 12, yeah. Went to
Because
an Italian
your
school.
dad had like a sabbatical job there or something?
Yeah, I had a sabbatical there, and that's like,
What a cool gig, right? Steve Saporin, shout out. He's out there just teaching folklore, telling stories to college kids. Where was he working in it? Do you remember?
no, you work kind of remotely.
Oh,
so we
got
just like
it.
living in a house
That's
and
what
he
a
did like his
sabbatical
research.
is.
Yeah.
You don't work when you're on sabbatical.
No, I knew that. I
Yeah.
thought maybe he like, because he was at Utah State.
Utah State.
So I thought maybe he like taught at some Italian university for a year or something. I don't know.
No. You get like a year off, and he was researching a local like holiday called Befana. So it's
Yeah. That
Cool.
I remember when so for those folks who are listening, so Guido and I went to high school together. And I do remember, I know your intention wasn't like to say this, but I remember for some reason when we were 14, we had some kind of conversation, and you had asked me, and I'm paraphrasing obviously, I don't totally remember, but you had asked me if I'd ever been outside of the country, and I was like, no, not yet. My parents haven't been able to like take me out of the country, and you were like, well, my parents found a way to, because it was important to them, so they figured it out. And it was like,
Oh,
it
man.
wasn't, you didn't mean for it to sound like that.
But it sounded like
But
that.
it sounded super douchey, like, well, my parents are cultured,
Yeah.
so.
You do have very cultured parents.
I know what happened. I'm drinking a Coors Light.
Well, that's because you're staying with us.
Yeah,
but-
Okay.
we were hanging out, and you're like, dude, can we drink on your podcast? I was like, of course. So
Yeah.
shout out to Tecate and Coors Light for unofficially sponsoring us.
Thanks, guys.
And Rachel's got her water because no booze.
Speaking of healthy decisions, though, I want to touch on what Rachel's talking about as
Yeah,
far as being
please.
in nature. There's a whole like slew of books about. One of them is just on water, and the whole book is about how going into the ocean, drinking water, all this stuff. How water is like healthy and good for you. All scientific. And then, and I kind of, I have that feeling of it. I don't know. I can't give any like statistics or anything like that. But if you just think about like walking down a street, let's say, for example, in LA, how many like data points your mind has to process at any given moment in time, consciously and subconsciously.
Yeah.
And you think about that and you compound that over hours and days and years. You think about what that does to a person, as opposed to taking some time off, going out into nature, I don't know, standing on the beach, putting your toes in the sand, looking at the ocean. You think about how less, like, it's kind of a weird way to say it, but less data points. You think of how healthy that is. I mean, people here are like obsessed about having the right figure, going through detoxes and stuff like that, but they're not doing the same thing psychologically for themselves. When you go out to nature, I can tell you just for myself, I can sleep 4 hours in a tent on a mountain, and that's worth like 10 hours in a queen-size bed in a nice hotel. Like, it's just worth way more. Fresher air. I mean, I like doing multi-days, but...
Well, I think that might be one of the positives to come out of this whole COVID quarantine shutdown thing.
More people getting
out.
out.
Yeah, more people are getting out. I mean, even for us, like, so my sister-in-law used to work for this camping, like, retailer, and she got us all this great camping gear for the holidays last year. And we have not yet been able to use it, and now we have these camping trips coming up. Because we didn't, it's not that we couldn't go camping, it's we had so many projects in the works and so many meetings and so many things that we're like working on. It's like, we'll go next week, we'll go next month. And we just kept putting it off. And like finally, some stuff shuts down and we still had to kind of, quote unquote, force ourselves to do it.
Right.
But I do think I think I'm excited about this next decade because I think we're going to see a lot of, I do sympathize with people who've lost work in the travel industry and whatnot, but I do think we're already seeing a big uptick in sort of off the grid, getting in touch with nature, getting away from the cities, kind of reverting back to a little bit more of a mellow, chill lifestyle.
But that's what I like with all of the work that I do, and I'm beginning to lean more and more into it. If it's like this like spiritual coming out process, and I mean that in the most like sincere way, right? I'm not interested, and again, it's LA where everyone's like, I can teach you about your feminine and masculine breath. Great. Okay. Maybe some people need that, but like the average person still has to work 40 to 60 hours a week and has a family and like has a 2-card household or like, you know what I mean? Or there's people who are like desperately trying with every fiber of their being to get out of a traumatic situation or poverty or whatever, right? They don't have time to take your $200 class on learning about their masculine and feminine breath. Like, beat it. What I think is the most important, or what I am choosing to kind of take on, of what we were talking about of like, you can't do everything. You can only do you, which is using these things that have worked for me, which is how can we help each other find balance? Because also what we're going to see out of this is that swing to the opposite side where people are going to be like, I'm off the grid. No, I'm off the grid. No, beat it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, don't take a picture of your ass on a beach and be like, but then give me like a Gandhi quote. You know what I mean?
I know,
like, pick a side. And I don't care. If you got a good ass, you worked for it. You know what I mean? Like, show it to me. But like, pick a day. You know what I mean?
I get what you're saying, like, don't like flaunt your body, but then also be like, I'm so like.
But I'm aligned. Like, just be okay with being like, I'm hot because I've worked my literal
This
ass
sounds
off
very
for this.
specific to someone you're referring to.
No, but I'm just saying that like there's that archetype that exists.
I know.
I find it to be very toxic because it is, and again, this is just my version of what is inauthentic, right? Their journey is different than mine.
Yeah.
So I'll go back to me, which is what I'm really wanting to put out there, which is you're welcome to pick up a little bit of it, because even being able to identify what you're speaking about of these data points of everything that's happening. I mean, I feel that way of like, it is mind blowing
Mind blowing.
Thank you.
Sorry. I'm just helping out.
I got it. It's mind blowing to me that there aren't more accidents on Hollywood Boulevard simply because if you're driving and you're not used to being there, they're like, look at this, look at this, look at this, look at this. Guy with a snake, guy in the street. Look at this, look at this, look at this. Like, who, you know what I mean? It is mind blowing that there aren't more accidents. And so even being able to notice, like, to me, it's not realistic to go, oh, I know that I feel better in nature, so that's just what I'm going to do now. Because then there's also part of me that would be very neglected of not being able to exercise this creativity, which is also very important, which is why I'm here. So what is this balance that we can find of okay, so today I was out of the house a lot and I was having to take in a lot of stressors. Maybe today I can be indoors. I can focus on this part of myself, or I can like, it doesn't have to be one or the other. And the media, to Alex's point from earlier, loves to categorize us, that it's either, it's the Kardashians and it's trash, or it's like, so-and-so found in, like the desert after living alone for 17 years. Like,
right. But the problem is, like, there are like wholesome, good news stories, and the traction on those is so much lower than the.
It doesn't sell. I mean, what's
I
it to
know.
sell? Like,
So what
guy
I-
went to the forest, had a good time.
So what I'm saying is that it's on us as consumers of media to push for stuff like that, or something that's not trash.
Well, what you're saying, it's like kind of a catch-22 though, because like I don't want to take a picture of my ass on the beach and show it off to everyone.
But you could. I'm just kidding.
I could too. Next post. But
that's actually where Free the Dust comes from.
Yeah. Ew. I don't know. It implies so many things.
yeah. Let's do. So
That wasn't my intention, but okay. Keep going.
we're there. So like, you don't want to be one of those people on social media, right? That's just like, oh, look at me, I'm living such a cool #blessed, like all that stuff. Like, I don't want to be that guy. But at the same time, you also want to use this platform to say, hey, maybe you can like look at what you're doing in a different light. Maybe you are working 40 hours a week, but maybe you can still go on the weekend. You can drive out to Mount Baldy, go for a hike. It's going to be cheaper than any other kind of like entertainment and healthier for you and like all these great things for you. So that's like, you have to play the game to get out of it. I don't know, something like that. Yeah.
But even that idea is balance of like,
Yeah, of course.
it's always, and this is the thing that I'm learning, I'm commandeering a little bit as well, which is it always comes back to intention.
Right.
What is your intention? And utilizing that intentionality with social media, because some people are like, social media is so toxic, I've got to get off of it, this and that. I'm like, okay, then to me that means that you're following people it's toxic content. Because I really enjoy, like, at the end of my day, it's 10:30 at night. I finally shut it down because that's how long my days are right now. And then I can look at beautiful interiors or people with really cool plants or floral designs or, like, spiritual folks that I follow, or, so it's like, it's something that I enjoy. I have curated it to be something that is enjoyable and is giving back to me rather than like, and there have been people that like, I do have to unfollow because, and some of it is like, those like men and women where it's like, where it's just not being authentic as to like what the prescription is, right?
Sure.
And then there's part of me, it's like, well, you should be like, then it's like clearly a trigger. Like, what is that about you? And then I'm also like, you know what? I do enough self-diagnosing. If I just don't want to look at it, I don't want to look at it. And it's that simple. Like, I don't know. I think that there is a little bit more onus that we can take on ourselves of like, what is it that we choose to take in? Same way where people are like, the media is insane, but I can't not be informed. It's like, let me tell you the truth of really what's going on. The actual amount of stories, and I think I've said this on the podcast before too, the actual amount of news of like, here is an event that happened.
Right.
Maybe twice a week.
Yeah. No,
But
not even that.
But we have news that cycles for 24 hours, and then
Right.
it also has ticker tape and commentary and this and that. So it's like, that you don't need. Is there a new event that happened? How many hours do I have to spend actually finding out the facts of that event, right? Versus like the way it's being projected to me, depending on what news outlet I'm watching, right?
But that's the thing. It's like somebody, I forget who, I wish I could credit them, but I saw someone tweet, at this point, mainstream media is just fan fiction. And it's totally true, because if you look at like I was listening to this podcast with this, he's like a pretty well-known podcaster, is Brett Weinstein. He's an evolutionary biologist, but he lives in Portland. And he was talking about the like protest riots in Portland. And he's like, yes, it is happening every day, but also it's within like a 2-block radius. And if you live in Portland, your life, if you don't live on that street, you really don't notice it. And so on the one hand, it's still happening and it's annoying and maybe like tragic to some folks and particularly, but like, really, it's not this travesty that like they're making it out to be. It's not like this battle that's happening in our lives are on the line. It's like, no, it's like a handful of people.
But that's how I feel like the media just feels like a bunch of stage moms at this point. You know what I mean? Being like,
Yeah.
go out there, go.
Right.
Just go. And being like, no, my daughter's great. Oh my gosh, no, you guys, yeah, she's the one in the back. Oh my God, no, she's great. And it's like,
Yeah.
No, she doesn't want to be here either.
Well, I was talking about that last night. I was just saying, in my opinion, it's like the media is a for-profit. Like these companies are for-profit. They're not
Right.
there to inform us. I mean, it's good to read a lot of stuff and be informed, sure, but that's not the purpose of their existence.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, I guess I could say also that's part of what I do. Like I want to get away from that. I want to get out into
Right.
nature. Those are the things that I'm gonna like when on my deathbed. I'm gonna be thinking about all the places I traveled. Not like, oh, I was really informed about the different news outlets and I stayed informed throughout my life. I'm not gonna care about that.
I'm just
I'll be dead.
imagining you in like your 90s with like your drone remote and your like grandchildren are like, Grandpa, come on, it's fun. You're like, no, one more
One
video.
more shot.
It's for the legacy. I gotta leave it.
I
Yeah.
need to get the aerial shot while I'm being lowered in the ground.
So still photos versus the drone video. Do you have a preference? It seems like that you've gotten really into the drone lately.
Actually, can I like gripe a little bit about drones?
Of course.
Okay, so this is just like personal issue.
Here we go. All right.
Drones are like outlawed in a lot of places, and there's very complicated laws and rules about this. I've got like my Part 107 drone license. Went through all the.
You have to have a license to.
You don't have to, but if you do commercial work, then you have to like get licensed by the FAA,
Interesting.
and you're considered like a pilot.
I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's good. You have to learn about like different airspaces, and so you don't run into a plane or whatever. So, like
Okay.
in all the national parks, which is where I go to a lot, it's outlawed to fly drones.
Mm-hmm.
But take, for example, like the Grand Canyon, it has something like 30 to 40 helicopters go through it a day. Now, the reason, like the legal reason that's written down why you can't fly drones, because you're going to disturb the local wildlife and other travelers who are there, which I completely understand. You don't want to be like looking out at this great overlook and majestic beauty, and then it's
Totally.
like, and you're like,
They're
what?
they're super annoying.
They are super annoying.
Yeah.
But if you're going to use the logic that this like disturbs the wildlife, then in the same national park, in this case,
Right.
say, oh, but we can have 37 or whatever helicopters going through, and it's like ba 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 ba.
Right.
I don't, because one is making the money, and the other one's for free.
Right. That's what it
So,
is. Yeah.
Okay,
I get
gripe
that.
over. Gripe done. But
So drone pilots tend to have beef with helicopter pilots.
yeah, we try and fly them into the. No, just kidding.
But that I could see that being a risk. Have you ever had anything where like a bird hit your drone or anything? I guess they would know to stay away.
No, they get really curious.
Really?
And it's not the big ones like hawks and eagles and stuff like that. They're like, I don't like this thing. It's like sparrows and things like that that are like defending their nest and stuff. They'll get close and they'll like. I think I was up like 600 or 700 feet.
Yeah.
And I'm like flying along, and I just see like the screen goes black for a second when a bird like flew across the front of the camera.
Interesting.
I was like, I don't want to like tear like cut up.
Have you ever lost your drone? No, they're pretty. You have lost it.
I didn't lose it. It fell from like 200 feet.
Holy shit.
In like freezing fog. It was so cold that the battery temperature like just kept going down, and I didn't notice it. And then the screen went black, and I just see the drone like not moving.
Oh,
just
no.
drop and like slam into the ground.
Did you get it back?
Yeah, it was like 20 feet in front of me.
Was it ruined?
One of the rotors was ruined. I just like replaced the parts.
Okay.
So it was okay. But
Interesting.
What are your favorite places that you have photographed and or favorite places to visit?
good question.
Because on there you had like Israel, Iceland, Australia, Utah, Colorado.
My favorite places are the ones I've never visited yet.
Oh gosh.
Boo. No, I mean,
Okay.
no, that makes sense. But like,
That sounds like a John Mayer like lyric or something.
Oh, well, that's good. That's a good start for me.
no, it sounds like the perfect Instagram quote of one of those girls with her ass out trying
Yep.
to. Yeah.
Well, let's see. So from like a photography standpoint, like extreme terrains are really beautiful to capture. I think Iceland is like an obvious answer. I've been there twice, and it looks like it's not part of this planet. It just looks like it's not, it's everything's weird. There's all the glaciers, the ice caps, the waterfalls. It's a beautiful place. I think the other place, and this was before I actually got into photography, really was New Zealand. It also looks like a land before time.
That's why they filmed all of the.
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings. Yeah. So
I was going to say the ring. Yeah.
What were we gonna say?
Just
The Ring? Very different movie.
so
They didn't film that there.
I mean, you never know.
It's a joke. Keep
I
going.
know.
So, actually, like a short story about New Zealand. I went there and I was like, okay, I'm going to be here for 3 months. I brought like all this camping gear.
You lived in New Zealand for 3
I
months.
lived. I'm in tent. Yeah, I was there for like 3 months. After
How did?
well, my accident, and then
Right.
Yeah, so I was like, got paid a little bit of money, and I was like, okay, I'm going to New Zealand. for
Okay,
kids.
so you took that little nest egg and went out and you camped.
Oh yeah, camped in hostels. Yeah. Like a mix
Okay.
between the two.
Okay, that's where I was like, so where were you eating your food? I'm just so curious.
I was scrounging berries from the forest and.
Wait, were you really?
No, just kidding.
Oh.
Don't eat berries.
The vocal change didn't cue that he was joking.
I mean, I thought so, but he's done weirder stuff.
I have
That's
them.
true.
Yeah, I do. So anyway, I get to the airport and I'm like, it's the first time I've been in this country, and they're like, biosecurity, like signs everywhere. And I go to the guy and I'm,
Wait, what do you mean biosecurity?
I'll get to
Okay,
it. Yeah,
all right.
So I go to the guy and he's like checking my passport. And I'm like, I just want to let you know, I have in my check bag, I have like a knife and it has like a, I don't know, a 7-inch blade. It's a big knife. I'm going to be camping, use this
Sure.
outdoors, whatever. And he's like, camping, huh? And he's like, do you have a tent as well? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, go to that line. As soon as he said that, I'm like, dang it.
Right.
So I go off to this whole cordoned off section. And I walk through, and they're like, okay, unpack everything. Where's your tent? Take off your shoes. They like inspect the bottom of my shoes for any like dirt, seeds, anything.
Okay.
So biosecurity basically means they won't let any foreign plants or seeds into the country, because then it become an invasive species and like ruins the local
Right.
flora and fauna, which makes a lot of sense. Anyway,
I always wanted to open up a restaurant called Flora and Fauna. Keep going. It's not a bit. That's a real thing.
I feel like you would
It's a
have,
good one.
you know what? I feel like a character you would invent is like some hippie woman who names her 2 daughters Flora and Fauna, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm sorry, Guido.
good,
Keep
good.
going.
So yeah, so they like take my tent and they're like, yeah, you can exit, like go to the waiting room or whatever and wait there for an hour. And I'm like, what? And then there's like this little door, and I'm like, what'd you guys do for an hour? And like, oh, we opened up your tent, we set it up, we vacuumed the entire thing for any like remainder of any biomaterial, and now you can have it back. I'm like, have a great stay in New Zealand.
They didn't
So
charge you for that.
No, not at all. They were just like, they weren't scared at all of the giant knife, but they were scared of like the seed, which
Interesting.
it's logical, but it was like counterintuitive as
I know
for me.
it feels silly.
Yeah.
But you know what, dude? I feel like in this new post-COVID world, we're going to see a lot of that kind of stuff moving
that's true.
forward.
Yeah.
I wonder when we're going to be welcome in other countries again.
Like Americans specifically?
Well, yeah, but I mean, certainly because of COVID. Because we're currently banned from like everywhere.
I know, dude. Don't even get me started.
Can't go to Iceland though. That's open.
Really?
Just saying.
But is it open to Americans?
Yeah,
'Cause-
it's open to Americans, but you
Oh,
have
it
to
is.
you have to quarantine though. You have to go through a test, quarantine, and then
Right.
you're released. So it's like you have to be there for 2 months for it to be worth it.
I would do it.
To Iceland?
Yeah, they have a nice
Yeah.
airport. They have a really nice.
I never
airport.
been.
I have been. I where was I going? Oh, I was meeting a friend in London, and that was where my layover was in Reykjavik. And I was like, dude, they have like pod bathrooms like at the airport. I was like, this is like the bathrooms at like the Ritz Carlton in like Aspen. It was incredible.
Yeah, it's beautiful there.
I think a novelty is a better word than incredible, but
It is incredible. It's a really, really, really nice airport.
It's really nice.
insane.
all right. I have not been, so I
Yes.
haven't. Sure, one day.
Road
Sure.
trip 2022.
I don't think we'll be able to go there by 2020. I mean, I know we can go there now, but I don't think like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
rules will be changed by 2022. Honestly, I think a lot of this is going to last most of the 20s.
I do too. I have a third spot.
That was really sad. Keep going.
Well,
Okay, third spot is Southern Utah. I mean, I was born in Utah, close to home, but Southern Utah has like,
Is that where Zion is?
yeah, that's where
Okay.
there's like the big 5 parks or whatever. It has so many. I'm not a geologist, but if you're a geologist, you know that there's like so much has happened in Southern Utah, with like ancient lakes, different formations. That's the reason why there's just so much different terrain to see, and a lot of what's really attractive from like a drone video or photography point of view is all these like patterns that you see, right?
Right.
And I'm gonna reference like an old movie that no one's gonna know what I'm talking about. It's called Kayanosquatsi.
okay.
Okay, it's like an Indian word. I forget which tribe, but it's a film that doesn't have any dialogue. All it is like shots of nature, and then shots of cities like pushed together really close. And it's just like these comparisons that are done really subtly.
Sure.
So you'll be like flying over New York City, over the grid,
Yeah.
and then it'll like switch to like a microprocessor, and then it'll switch to like river design, and then it'll switch to like a fractal.
That
So you
sounds
have-
like a sick video to watch when you're stoned.
It probably is. So anyway, Southern Utah.
That's what the Indian name means.
Yeah,
one,
right.
one who is stoned.
Can you imagine that would be, dude, what a funny character, right? If you're in a tribe and they name you for like your personality, it's like he who is stoned, but they use it in their native tongue.
Yeah. Well, that's something I was thinking when I was watching that video. Is I remember when I was little and I used to go to Cedar Point, which is like a big amusement park in Ohio, and they had like their big, this is probably where my parents took me, when they were tired from the day, and so you would go and watch whatever movie was like on their big 3D IMAX, and it was basically videos like obviously this one was much more beautiful, but that of just like terrain and like these big, and so it would just kind of you would watch it and it would look like you were flying over these landscapes. So that was something else that it made me think of. Where I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
I wish I was on IMAX theater. That was sweet.
Well, You know what? We'll
Start
put it
right
down
here.
on your list.
Right here,
Start
yeah.
manifesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is interesting, and I think where I value nature so much and being able to get out in it, I would say I think I've always been able to value it, but now certainly because of COVID, like the amount of excitement, like literal excitement that I have about these upcoming camping trips
I know, right?
is the like adult equivalent of like it's Christmas is tomorrow. Or you guys both didn't
Well-
celebrate Christmas growing up, but you could imagine.
Jews. Yeah, Guido, you're our first Jewish guest. Oh, wait, that's not true. Armando's mom is Jewish. So I take
Could
it
be
back.
like his first Israeli guest.
That's true.
Okay, from now on I will speak with accent. This is best show ever, I tell you.
Okay.
No? Okay. Okay.
Wait, and then so really quick, can I ask you questions at all about being in the Israeli army?
Go for it.
So I am just so fascinated because, and there's something about, I think what okay, so I have so many thoughts all at once. So what is interesting to me is this is my own projection of like a soldier, right? Is somebody who it's like they're not in touch with their feelings, or it's all PTSD, or like all these things in there. You definitely, and whether this is true or not, you exude this sense of like inner peace and kind of this like external force field of like when you kind of like open it up and welcome somebody in, then it's great, and then when they go, you're like, okay, and then you close it off, and then you just kind of like do your own thing. And so do you feel like that was kind of always do you feel like that's accurate at all?
What do you mean, like close it off, like when someone's not in the same room with me, or what do you mean?
Yeah, I just mean like that you have this real sense of kind of internal peace that it almost feels like a skill that you've gotten very disciplined about being able to stay kind of in your own rhythm and not be so easily affected by those around you.
Oh, well, that comes from the nature stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you feel like, that's fairly accurate.
Yeah, I couldn't go on like one trip for a month and that would be enough. It's like something I have to go back out and recharge, I don't know whatever
It's
we
a
want to call it.
practice.
Yeah, it's a practice. You have to constantly fill it up.
Well,
It's like-
one thing we were talking about the other night that I remember, or last night, that is sort of like going off the grid adjacent. It's not quite that, but it's close. You talked about when you did different like jobs in the army, you had to just be like staring into the distance on watch. You couldn't look at your phone. Your brain had to just wander while you were just like there on guard at your post.
Yeah, you have a lot of time. Like you have a lot of time in the military where we don't have like the conveniences that most people have, which is like the distractions you might say, because whatever your mission is, and the mission can be anything from like you need to clean these 500 plates that were in the mess hall
Right.
up to something that's like operational, you could say. So I think maybe that's part of it, and maybe I attribute that to the nature stuff, but it's definitely something that was like taught. Like you need to concentrate on this one thing, have it be in a specific chain of events, and like you finish one, then you move to two. There's no kind of mixing it up and no change of order. So
I know it was a little while ago when you were in the service, but I'm curious because we weren't quite phone addicted as much back then as we are now. Yeah. But do you feel like having that time where you were forced to not be near technology was like it benefited you greatly, being that you had to have that time where you just like were like in your only your brain could entertain you. You couldn't just pull out your. I feel like there's so much danger now. I catch myself doing it all the time. I'm bored. I have to go look at the phone.
yeah, it's a crutch.
Dude, it's
a crutch. I mean, I think like people didn't before phones. People were like reading more in different ways,
or they would just look at the stars,
or just look at the stars. Yeah, if you can, which is good. I mean, that's also part of what I do. I mean, I go out and you force yourself. What you say is you like, okay, I realize this is a situation that's healthy for me in a lot of ways. Now I have to force myself to put myself into that situation because it starts a chain reaction of events that all of those lead to a really good place, right?
Yeah.
So like if I'm in self-service, I'm going to be checking my phone. I know myself enough to say I don't have the power to not do that. So what do? I remove myself from the situation, put myself in a situation where I can not look at my phone.
Well, the other tricky part is that so much of like so many jobs and careers now are dependent on being plugged into quote unquote the grid in order to be successful. I mean, you and I for sure.
But that's why I feel like as I continue to, sign deals for different projects, take on different projects, I wrote about this morning on my Instagram, and I was saying,
Humble brag. I'm just kidding.
Learning learning how to set the boundary.
Yeah.
So as soon as you are working with somebody, you have already let them know. 1 second, I knocked over his light.
That's okay.
There we go.
Hey, thanks, Joey. Okay. If you are the one that's setting the boundary, then you can let people know. And if somebody's like, no, I need somebody who's available 24/7, great, then I'm not your person. Because it's also like, that's something that I realize now, which is I'm like, how the pace at which I'm working now is probably about as fast as I can churn out work that is my best, that I can stand behind and also manage to do other things at the same time. And so if this is the pace wise, this is as good as I can, the productivity level that I can do in balancing multiple things at once and knowing how much time that takes up, then I'm just setting the boundary.
Yeah.
Because I can't do it faster than this, and I'm not going to make myself crazy because it is literally not worth it.
But it takes. Keep going. Sorry.
And that is what I have found to be most valuable to me in this time of not being at the commercially successful level that I would like to be at.
Yeah.
There's certainly the part of ego, right? That plays into that of like, I have worked so hard on this thing. I want people to know like I was the one that was able to, produce these things.
Right.
Because I'm human. The real driving force of it is where I'm like, these tools and processes and ideas have literally changed my life and are so simple and available. And it's not something we talk about that I feel like I'm so ready to just like shout it from the rooftops. Right. And so going back to the idea of like, there is value in these ideas. And so placing that value in yourself of like, whatever your boundaries are of when you're not available. So that way you don't have this need to always be checking in, always be. And like, and I'm on social media a lot because of what Alex was talking about for work. Right. But now I've at least designed it of like, I do my meditation in the morning. What comes up for me in meditation goes onto social media. So I'm like, utilizing kind of being able to do both with this time. And I see social media as a transmitter, as a literal way to transmit your energy, your ideas, like out to other people. And so I've kind of renegotiated my relationship to it where it's my megaphone, which kind of goes back to what you were talking about in the beginning.
Catch-22, yeah.
Right. But if you can utilize it and see it that way, where I'm utilizing it as a tool and then beginning to teach myself that self-discipline of my value doesn't come from like if one day I'm like, wow, look how many people love this or shared it. Right. And then other days, maybe people don't. It doesn't have anything to do with my value. It's literally an algorithm that has nothing to do with me. Right. So my job is to show up to the app, put out my message, transmit that thing, and then that's it. So learning, I feel like I very much feel like I'm in this kind of like mental gymnastics part of this, like, kind of training of like, okay, if you really have this message and things you want to put out there and not lose yourself to the game, as it were, you have to learn how to get super disciplined. And like mental discipline is not, which is bizarre because I come from two athletes, both of my parents, my mom more than my dad, but like that was their thing. And like, as an artist, you have the total opposite end. And so I'm kind of later in life teaching myself these disciplinary things, which is what I want to talk about with the military, but we moved on. Go ahead.
We can still talk about
No,
that.
go ahead.
Joey, can you pull up that other there's one other photo I emailed over if you can find it. I want to pull it up because it's so sick.
Thanks,
but
man.
the thing is, this is what I hope for you. What would be amazing as technology progresses. VR isn't quite at the level yet where you like feel like you're really in it and you can, but I would love it if we get to the point where you can VR into your drone footage.
Like live while I'm out there or something?
Yeah, that would be so cool, right? It's like you feel like you're flying through.
So they already have like drones that you can like lay in and you can fly around. They don't go very far.
Look at this picture. How sick is this picture, right? So,
That was like 48
and
hours
again,
ago.
by the way,
Is that you?
Yeah.
So for the folks just listening, really, I encourage you to take a second and hop on Instagram and look at Free the Dust. Or go to Free the Dust on.
That looks like the cover of an album.
I know, right? So that's his drone.
What's the title though?
Free the Dust.
I would say Access to Nowhere.
I like
Interesting.
First album by Free the Dust.
Yeah. So
There you go.
so
It
that
just sounds of like wind.
Access to nowhere.
Or that.
so that
I was gonna say sounds of like wind and nature, but
Nope.
okay. Nope.
It's a new band and they sound like this.
Classic. rock.
Access to Nowhere sound. What band would it be? Like who would? Because Access to Nowhere sounds like it would be like some like punk rock, fight the system.
Yeah,
They're
that's-
keeping us down. We can't get anywhere.
That's why I was singing like this. That's what it, that's what it feels
Lead
like.
singer, guitarist.
I guess. Anyway, I just thought this photo was cool. I wanted to share it. But I would love for more folks to appreciate. If you can't get into nature, next best thing, get some nature prints in your house. Remind you of the great outdoors, right?
I'll tell you what I want. I want to find all these people that want to go out, they don't know where to go, or they don't. Maybe something I wanted to bring up as well is a lot of people are like they're apprehensive about it. They didn't grow up going out to places like I did.
Totally.
They go out and they have like a fear of, I don't know, like a bear ripping them apart. And I gotta just say, like while we're on the air, like animals don't have bad intentions. They're not there to like come and get you. There's not monsters in the night that come and get you. It's people who don't know how to camp properly, don't take
Right.
the proper whatever procedures.
That is true.
Yeah.
But if you are in an area where the bear thinks you're a threat to its cubs,
that's different. That's
I know. So there is. You're right. It's rare.
Yeah.
You're more likely to get in a car accident or something, but it doesn't come from nowhere. Like it's not like people who hear a myth one day. And,
Right, but also like most people who are beginning campers aren't going to end up in a place where like they're
That's
literally
true.
out in the wild too. So it's like
Yeah.
that's the other thing of like just like anything, there are things for, beginners, intermediate and advanced. Like if you just find like your local like KOA campsite, and like show, it doesn't
Start up.
have to be like
I will say, if you're in a trailer, you're not camping. You got to be in a tent. People who do glamping, right?
But I'm also just like, get outside.
Fair.
Like
Yeah.
I feel like, it's like start where you're at. And I think because also like some people aren't interested in really remote camping. I
Yeah.
thought I would not be the personality for it. I actually find that like I love it. I
Yeah.
absolutely love it.
I know we got to wrap up soon, but I'll share one anecdote. My dad and my younger brother did this trip when my brother was in the Boy Scouts, and they went into like I think it was called Northern Tier.
Okay.
And they basically get dropped off in the wilderness of Canada, and they spend a week, like 5 days, completely off the grid. The leader has a satellite phone for emergencies. They had to kayak through there. They didn't see anybody, and they still talk about it, like how incredible of a trip it was. I think we should do more of that, but we got to wrap up soon, Guido. So, final words. Any last things you want to leave us with?
You sure you don't want to tell us where Free the Dust comes from?
I really want to, but I like made a promise to myself when I
So
was
you're
on
at
Instagram.
All right.
almost 40,000 followers now. We need 60,000 more,
Yep.
and then roughly a little more than that, but
Yeah.
and then we'll find out.
Origin story, man.
Okay. Well,
When can we have? Here we go. How do you do a sentence? Learn. Okay. It's been a long week and it's only Monday. Do you feel me?
you
Is
want
this
him.
thing on?
You want him to reveal it on air.
I don't know how you knew that. That's exactly what I was going to say.
I could tell.
When you get to 100,000 followers, we don't even speak in full sentences at our house anymore, by the way. He'll go, I got that. Yeah, I
Yep,
know.
yep.
That's all we do. Yes, this is a formal invitation from me
Okay.
to you. When you hit 100,000 followers, will you please join us back here, IRL or
Yes.
via Zoom, wherever you are? And I want you to reveal Free the Dust right here.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
He's
There
gonna
you- there
he's
you
gonna
go.
do it via Zoom, but he's gonna have the drone over him
Yes.
and looking up at the drone and be like, "What's up, world?" You're gonna find out the name.
And jump backward off of like a 500-foot cliff.
Do it.
Have you ever you've parachuted before,
In
right?
the military, and then like once outside.
Can you talk about halo jumps on? Or you can't get into that.
No, I didn't do halo jumps.
Oh,
I
you
did
didn't do those?
No, I did just like the regular jumps, which are actually way scarier because they're from way lower.
Let's end on that anecdote. Describe it, and then we'll sign off here.
I'll describe the last jump. The last jump was
Okay.
from like 1,600 feet in a Hercules plane. It's like a C-130.
1,600 feet in the air.
Yeah, that's not high at all. It's like way too close.
Okay.
It sounds like it's safer, but it's actually way more scary.
Right.
At night with scuba gear into the ocean. So I fell asleep because it was like there's no AC on the plane. You're like get really hot. I was the last one to jump, and I literally like hear someone calling my name. It's like Guido, and I look. The whole plane's empty, and like my commander's like run down the line. Now it's a fixed line, so your chute is attached to like this cable. I run down. I'm still like half waking up, and they like pushes me out of the plane, and then I wake up, and it's like I wake up falling out of a plane at night, and then like 45 seconds later, I just hit the ocean, super cold, and I'm like and that was my last jump.
That sounds like doing mushrooms.
Well, on that story, I know we'll do military anecdotes maybe next time. But guys, this has been House Rules. Our guest, Guido Barak. You can see all of his amazing photography and drone work at freethedust.com and at freethedust on Instagram.
Follow him. Let's get this origin story.
And I'm your host, Alex Getlin.
I am your other host, Rachel LaForce.
We're here every Monday, usually at 5:30, sometimes delayed based on, things that are out of our control. But you can follow us, like us, share. And one thing I will say, guys, this is really cool. Our numbers have been going up. We doubled our downloads from July to August. They're going up. So more people are listening. More people are sharing. It's really, really cool. And if you guys haven't yet, you could go onto Apple Podcasts, like it, leave a review, tell a friend, just anything at all. It really, really, really helps us out. It makes a huge difference, and we really appreciate it. So thank you again for that.
As always, keep sending us your ideas if you're finding crazy stuff in the news. It's hard to beat what Alex finds because I think he lives online. But send us all the stuff that you find, any questions you have, all that good stuff. We've got a bunch of extra segments we're going to start pushing out to you. As always, we love you so much. Thank you for listening. Be kind to yourselves. Be good to each other. We love you. We'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.